Welcome to the 359. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
I'm David Katzmaier.
Just as OLED TV screens are slowly moving their way into mainstream pricing, a new TV technology is making waves as the next big thing. It's called MicroLED, and Samsung appears to be one of the one leading the charge. What's MicroLED, and why is it different? How is it different than OLED?
Well, so MicroLED, first of all, it's not available yet. Maybe a year, maybe 2 years before you see the first ones for sale to consumers. It's basically, think of a scoreboard, a big, above like the Dallas Cowboys Stadium or whatever. It's literally millions of LEDs that make up the picture. So you'd think an LED TV is like that. You're wrong. Actually, LED TVs have an LCD plane in front of them. This is the real direct LED deal, and picture quality benefits include supreme contrast, excellent color, all the great things that you'd expect from next generation TV tech.
How is that different than OLED? Isn't OLED something like that?
Yeah, so OLED, but the main difference is one, OLED is organic, meaning that the LEDs themselves are they can get a little bit degraded over time. So the one of the big things with micro LED is that they can get brighter than OLED as well. So you can pump in, since they can't get degraded, you can pump a whole bunch more energy into them. They can be a lot brighter, and you can get the benefit of no burn-in. So sometimes with
I was
OLED
about to ask
screens,
about that.
Exactly. Sometimes with OLED screens, you leave a static image up for a really long time. That can become kind of a ghost image on the screen. With micro LED, that isn't an issue.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So how much of a big deal is micro LED? Because as it was mentioned in a story that we wrote recently, this is the first new TV technology to be commercialized in like a decade.
Yeah.
It's a long time coming.
Exactly. And LED LCD is still around. It makes the majority of TVs out there. And OLED is the new kind of kid on the block. Still a small minority of TVs are OLED right now, and the micro LED is going to be the new kid on the block, which brings again this extra picture quality without any of some of the issues that OLED has. So that's the promise. The issue is making these things and making them small enough. Actually, the problem is getting those LEDs to be tiny. So Samsung came out with a 75-inch 4K resolution micro LED TV at CES this year.
Which is just a prototype, right?
Absolutely. But that kind of shows that, it was 146 inches last year, so that the engineers shrunk it down. I think it's a 1/1500th of a millimeter for the chip size of these little individual LEDs.
It's interesting. They have to figure out a way to make it smaller so that it'll actually fit in people's houses.
You need 23 million odd individual LEDs, so getting them into a 75-inch size takes a lot of engineering.
So Samsung also made news this week about their lineup of QLEDs. Talk to me a little bit about that, and also explain to me what QLED is and where it fits into this whole, rigmarole.
It is rigmarole. It's just marketing. QLED basically means quantum dot LED. So it's just exactly like LCD TVs, just like the ones we've had for decades, but they put some quantum dots in there. Now, Samsung is the only ones that do quantum dots. Other manufacturers, TCL, Vizio, do quantum dot related TVs as well. But the idea is better color, better brightness, but it still has a lot of the issues the LED has, including viewing angle, lighter black levels, blooming, things like that. So, again, micro LED and OLED are direct LED technologies, whereas QLED and standard LCD have this sort of, a liquid crystal display layer that has some of these image quality issues.
One of the interesting things about TV trends these days is how much bigger just regular consumer TVs are getting.
Yeah.
It was mentioned the QLED lineup, for instance, they go up to 98 inches or something like that? But is this going to slow down or stop at some point, or is this what's convincing people to actually buy new? Is just keep getting bigger. We're just going to keep making them bigger, and you figure out where to put them in your house.
The big growth right now is the large screen sizes. Samsung knows that. For example, one of their big advantages over OLED TVs made by LG is that OLEDs are available in 55 and 65-inch TV sizes mainly. LCD TVs routinely get up to 75, 80 inches, as you mentioned, up to 98. So getting a standard QLED, LCD, whatever you want to call it, television up to a really big screen size really isn't that inexpensive, and you can get a 75-inch, really good 75-inch TV for $1,800 now. So the prices are coming down on these large TVs. People are taking the smaller TVs, moving them to another room, taking their 75 inches, putting them in their living room, and that's kind of really the only growth area in television right now.
Last thing that I wanted to get to was CES. We haven't had you on since then, so kind of wanted to jump into what were some of the most interesting things that you saw at the show. I thought the rollable TV from LG was probably the standout, right?
Hands down, the coolest thing. So this is OLED technology, which, as you might know from curved screens, can actually bend and roll. And the idea here is it just rolls up like a lampshade. And if you see the video, it literally just is in this box and it raises up out of this box. So there's no TV. All of a sudden, there's a 65-inch TV there. It's a really cool design, amazing technology. It's the kind of thing you can see in 5 years. Every TV will do that, you know, assuming that they have OLED.
Interesting. All right. If you want to read more about these stories, check them out on CNET. I'm Ben Fox-Rubin.
David Katzmaier.
Thanks for listening.
A lot of lead.
A lot of lead.
LED.
All right, thanks everybody for joining us for the recording of the audio podcast. Please feel free to subscribe using the links in the description below. I, for one, am concerned about LED poisoning. Should we have any concern about LED poisoning?
Ha ha ha.
Yeah, only if you eat the chips. If you're a small child who eats the television, then you might get poisoned, especially if it's inorganic. But no, otherwise you're fine.
That is pretty sweet to hear that micro LED, though, doesn't do the burn-in.
Right.
Because as you had mentioned, this isn't something that you've personally experienced and you haven't seen as much.
No.
But it is certainly a concern that people have mentioned.
Yeah.
And when you're spending that much money on a TV, you want to make sure that it's something that's not going to happen.
I mean, I'll give you the full spiel, well, at least the small spiel. I would still buy an OLED TV today if I wanted a new TV, just because I don't think I would burn it in. I think to burn it in, you got to really leave like, you know, a static thing on the screen for a long time. For example, you watch CNN day in and day out, that little logo.
For months.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
with never changing the channel. I mean, that's the thing. If you don't vary your viewing habits as a normal person does, then you might, you know, get some burn in. But it's tough to do. And, you know, again, I think it's a perfectly viable technology, which is why I, you know, recommend the heck out of it in my TV reviews.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to questions.
Well, first of all, why the hell did you cite the Dallas Cowboys?
Oh, because they have like a huge
their
micro
screen
LED
is insane.
screen.
I think it might be the largest video wall. What it was, you know, when it came out.
Okay,
around.
I think the
I was worried that you
Mercedes-Benz
were a Cowboys
Yeah,
fan.
no,
the
no,
Mercedes-Benz
no.
Stadium where the Super Bowl
the Jets have a
was.
tiny little television and tiny pride, or else I would be talking about that.
Okay,
That's just mean.
Sam Darnold forever.
I just had to clear that up because
All
go
right.
Bills, go
No, no,
Bills. Have we really kind of crossed the point now where like that old wives' tale of, oh, if you sit too close to the TV, you'll go blind? We're past that, right?
Oh, we're all blind already.
Yeah. I think we passed that with phones, where you can just kind of just look like that all day and you're fine. But yeah, with the really big TVs, you know, I don't feel like there's any limit. You know, like as long as you have a big enough house, I always tell people, you know, spend your money on screen size first. And you know, you're generally not going to be unhappy with what you get. You know, as long as everybody in your house can agree that that's the TV size for your family. You know, I would start at 65 if you have, you know, a regular size living room.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how big TVs are getting, but at the same time, that's what the market is supporting these days. So as long as people are buying them, they're going to keep making them this way. And it is interesting to see that the prices have reduced to the level that
It's crazy.
you can get a really good screen for not that much money.
We routinely saw 65-inch TVs for $500, $600 during Black Friday.
Like
holiday
not
season.
lousy.
No, and
TVs
and
too.
really good ones for $700, $800. You know, our Editor's Choice TCL was briefly down to $800, $900. That, I mean, again, like that's a 65-inch TV. It's really, really big and a lot bigger than most people have. So that's what's really happening. 55-inch TVs are $300, $350 now. So, you know, they were big TVs, you know, not too long ago, and now
It is a big TV.
It
I
is.
got the TCL after talking to you. I got the TCL 55-inch.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was some convincing that had to happen in my house afterward. That
Usually
it was a bit of an adjustment to go from like a 39 or a 40-inch to a 55-inch. I feel like 65-inch, especially because I have like a narrower living room, might have been an overkill.
Of course.
I mean, like the kids already feel like they're inside the Umizoomi show. So I don't think I had to get a 65-inch. Plus, like, for that money, I kind of didn't feel like I needed to like, oh, like I'm getting married to this thing for 10 years. You know, it's not so expensive.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Like what you're going to do is eventually you're going to say, oh, maybe I could fit a larger TV, you know, next time I get it, and move those down the line. So we have a 55 in our bedroom, for example, and it's great. You know, I mean, that's the great thing about this technology getting less expensive is people can have that option.
Yeah. All right.
All right, let's take some questions from the chat. Coming in from Life Improvements, I want to use those micro LED panels to make my room look like that episode of Black Mirror and wake up like I'm in the middle of a rainforest. I'm with you on that one. I kind of want it to be more like an underwater, like as if I was in an aquarium or something like that. What about you guys? What would you do?
Hold on. Wasn't that episode of Black Mirror where they used those walls to like
brainwash the guy and make him like,
well, of course it's not going to be a happy ending. It's friggin' Black Mirror.
Exactly.
Right,
and like
right.
they knew that he was trying to close his eyes because he didn't want to see that particular advertisement.
He had to put in a certain amount of hours anyway. I'll take you know, a wall-sized you know, TV. I think virtual reality might be a little more interesting if you can have the entire room, you know, be your VR suite. I mean,
and then like put it away at some point.
Yeah,
that it doesn't have to
holodeck.
be the hardware.
Yeah. That's a cool future to think about with these really large TVs, and MicroLED can do the same thing. So, you know, and Samsung is making it modular. These little panels that make up that 75-inch TV, you can take them apart, you can build them, you know, or you can, you know, put them all over your room. You know, so that kind of stuff is definitely possible in the future with these new techs.
Next question coming in from Michael Brown. Which of the three micro LED, Q dot, and OLED are more energy efficient?
Ooh, I'm gonna have to go with LCD, LED LCDs, just because they use, they're just a little light sources. They have the fewest number of light sources on the panel, I guess I'll put it that way. So they have to shine through an LCD screen, but with quantum dots, they can be super efficient to do that. So LCDs generally use less energy than either of the other two. OLED potentially can use less if it's really dim or you're watching a lot of stuff in the dark. You know, watch a lot of home theater stuff because it doesn't use power when it's showing a dark area of the screen, and it uses less power if it's showing, you know, again, dimmer scenes. But LCD in general with normal TV viewing habits is going to give you the best energy efficiency.
Well, with the LCDs, you are going to lose a little bit on contrast, right?
Yes.
Because it's got fewer light sources. Therefore, when you've got very bright white up against completely like almost dark, we talk about Gravity, I guess sometimes that movie, that it's not going to pop as much.
But again, with the newer full array local dimming LCDs out there, Vizio, Samsung last year had two of the best performers I've seen that come the closest to matching that amazing contrast that OLED has. It's not quite there yet, but they can also get brighter. So that's the other side of it. You can get really, really bright, especially with high dynamic range. That's important. So, you know, when you talk about energy efficiency, I still think LCD is going to be the main one, but picture quality, OLED is the best. But right now, LCD and, you know, the higher end LCDs with full array local dimming are coming really close.
Nice.
So, David, before we move on, how's your weekend gig moonlighting as a TV pimp outside of the Best Buy in Brooklyn going?
Oh, it's great. The best part is the furs. I really enjoy, you know, being able to wear a leather jacket with like a big fur collar and everything. And I'm getting my walk on. I got my little, you know, fish shoes, you know, so it's
and
good.
a cane.
Yeah, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I tell you, I've been a very casual TV watcher for the longest time, and I haven't been upgrading my TV much. I had a CRT.
Shame.
Until like 2013.
Wow.
But every time you're on the show, it pushes me a little further, and it's like, I should invest.
Hey, just wait until Black Friday. We were talking about this ahead of the show. This is probably a good time to discuss. When's the best time of the year to buy a TV if you're on the market?
Not now, Brian.
Exactly.
Hold off.
Usually you want to wait until like Super Bowl Sunday at the very latest.
Right.
And then otherwise hold off.
Yeah. And we just wrote an article about that. Basically, like the big TV sales are over now, you know, so hang tight until, you know, if you can. Obviously, your TV breaks or you're really, really jonesing for a new one, go ahead. But in the meantime, between now and you know, November 2019 ish is when you're going to start to see the best sales, and that's when all the retailers are competing with each other, and you can jump on, you know, these kind of flash sales and get a really good bargain, or even, you know, the general prices are going down on pretty much everything. So that's the time for, you know, any kind of purchase, but especially a big purchase like a TV.
I just always said, like, I'm not going to replace my technology until it's belching fire, because all I watch is, like, the same old 90s sitcoms and, like, Kevin Smith movies. So picture quality hasn't been a big deal. But you keep pushing me, man. You are really pushing me.
Well, okay, look, I'll say the flip side of that. I have a 65-inch plasma at home, which is a TV technology that's been dead for, I guess, 6 or 7 years now. They don't make them anymore. It's a great TV. Again, with normal HD, regular picture quality, this is what I do this for a living, but I don't miss generally HDR and 4K. If I was going to buy a new one, yeah, I'd buy a new 65-inch OLED. But, in the meantime, I'm perfectly good spending my money on other stuff.
Well, when you talk about plasma for the newer TV technologies.
Yeah, although any of the new, better TVs is going to run circles around my old plasma, especially for brightness, ambient light rejection, obviously resolution and detail, which is a lot more difficult to see than contrast. But, all those things, a newer TV is going to be better.
All right, let's floor a couple more questions. From Ricky B, are the refresh rates on OLED different from an LED/micro LED?
Depends, but not really. All those things kind of max out at 120 hertz equivalent. So if you're talking about seeing image blurring and things like that, if you're sensitive to it, it's going to be very similar on both technologies.
We talk about this micro LED, and every time we shoot a review of one of your TVs, it's kind of hard to convey that picture quality. Like, you have to verbalize it really well to convey what you're getting as a consumer, because pointing a camera at a screen only does so much, right? Especially when we're probably going to broadcast in 1080p max.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
But seeing that micro LED in action, the saturation point and the overall brightness and intensity of the contrast, that conveyed really well to the video. I thought that was one of the most impressive TV presentations we've had in a while.
Yeah, the video that they shot at CES, again, this if you think about a scoreboard, that's, I think, the best analogy. I mean, those things are hella bright and way brighter than anything that's out there on the market right now. The crazy part is you go, well, maybe that's too bright. And you went, I know, the light, turn it off, especially in your living room. It's one thing to be on the floor of Best Buy and the shiniest TV there, which makes you want to buy it. When you get it home, I don't recommend people crank their TV super bright. I mean,
it would be too much glare.
Yeah,
in my opinion, anyway.
And in a dark room, which I think is the best way to watch. If you're going to appreciate image quality, at night with a movie or something like that, they can definitely get too bright. With high dynamic range, you have the benefit of bright highlights and the rest of it being contrasty and really good. So that's kind of the best of both worlds. But there is a point at which it feels like it could be too bright. Somebody would argue that, hey, the sun is really bright. So
that's the argument.
The argument is outside, you're looking at brightness levels that are way, way, way higher than any TV can produce right now. So the natural world creates brightness levels that are still way higher than any TV. And your idea is to, mimic reality on a screen. So why not get these TVs at least as bright as they are when as light is when you walk outside, which is a pretty cool thing to think about.
It is, but isn't the light? You're not looking at the light shining directly at you unless you're staring right at the sun. The light, the brightness is bouncing off of all sorts of other things.
Yes, and when you look at a movie that's high dynamic range that has these HDR pops, what you're actually noticing more, I notice more, is the areas, the highlights on the screen. For example, if you look at a clouded sky, the clouds can be really bright. The glint of sun off of metal, little pops like that are the things that really stand out about HDR and that make your brain go, wow, this is a more realistic image. I'm used to evolving, outside and hunting and gathering and seeing, light behave the way it should. With a TV, with a standard dynamic range TV, you're not going to see any of that sort of pop that you get in the natural world. There's some movies that do a really good job of it, and a lot of Netflix shows now that are fully taking advantage of HDR and the more natural dynamic range that it can bring. And that's one of the coolest advancements in TV, regardless of which technology it goes for.
I'll try to pay attention to that now that I do have an HDR TV.
Well, yours is not going to show you as much as some others out there.
Bummer.
A couple more years for your next TV, Ben.
Sure.
We'll hook you up.
The chat is full of smart mics today. Mike Shaw, who points out that the Sun is the largest plasma TV out there. Michael Walker and Michael Brown as well. Michael Walker saying, I'm buying the Sony Z9G 98-inch 8K Black Friday in 2020.
All
What do we
right.
think? Like $4,000?
If you're waiting a whole, that's almost 2 years from now.
2020 nuts? Yeah, I would be really surprised if a 98-inch TV was that cheap. I mean, they haven't priced any of the 98-inch TVs this year, but the 85 is 15 grand. So 98 is
Wait,
again,
what? 15 grand?
Yes.
$15,000.
Yes.
That's the 85.
That's the only, well, it's the 85-inch 8K TV. There's actually some 85-inch TVs out there, sorry, I'll take that back, that are in the $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 range.
Okay.
And, you know, those are the less expensive ones, but, you know, these high-end 8K ones that we're talking about, he's talking about is the super high-end Sony version of the Samsung that just came out. So anyway, 98-inch 8K TVs are, you know, going to be crazy expensive. But, yeah, I don't think it's going to be down to $4,000. Maybe in the 98-inch TV 4K, maybe they'll come out with one. I haven't seen one yet. Maybe 10.
What's the most expensive TV price you've ever seen?
Like 6 figures. In fact, this
What?
micro LED
Oh
TVs.
my God.
Well, it was the Sony. I want to say the Sony original Z9D was like $60,000 for a 100-inch TV.
Gross.
But the Samsung is selling micro LED TVs now, and they wouldn't even quote me the price.
Right,
They said you had to
right, because they're all
call up-
like custom.
Right.
yeah.
So, but those things are I would bet, you know, 6 figures. So I didn't actually spec it out and go that route. Maybe that's the next step.
Yeah.
That's like restaurants who put their menu outside but don't list the prices. Like, guess who's not coming in, guys? I know what you're
If you have to ask the price, you can't afford it, Brian.
Yeah, precisely.
You don't want to.
God. All right, a few more questions before we wrap it up for the day. Michael Brown, when do we think micro LED is going to come to the market under $1,000?
Ooh. Okay, I was gonna
while.
say next
One word
year,
review.
but then I stopped. Yeah, and under $1,000, it's 2026. Sure, why not? In tech, anything beyond 2 years is complete BSery. So, you know, fine. Yeah, 2026. That's my final answer.
Mike Shaw is asking, will micro LED technology work with phones, or even should it?
Yes, that's a really good point. Actually, there was a Bloomberg report last year that Apple was working on developing their own micro LED displays for phones. I've been to Korea and seen some of these manufacturers talk about developing micro LED for really small screens. So it has some potential there. And again, going back to the controversy with the Google Pixel 2, there was some burn-in with the OLED screens. People have always complained about burn-in with OLED phone screens. So it's potentially a technology for even the tinier screens, although I think it's going to come to market first on the bigger ones just because of the engineering is easier when you're talking about big screens and micro LED.
It's going to take longer to shrink it down.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
You think we'll see it in computer monitors relatively soonish?
Sooner than phones, although who knows, because phones have I think they have a bigger market, impetus to develop this kind of technology. And, you know, again, if Apple is looking into it and looking beyond OLED for the screen tech, it makes a lot of sense for them to also be in computer screens too. So, yeah.
And what about some decent OLED computer monitors? What can you list off for our friend Ricky?
I don't know, honestly. I know we've reviewed a couple of them. It's not something that I keep a lot of track of. I would be more averse to a computer monitor for OLED just because of the burn-in issue. You know, you're more liable to leave a screen on, although most computers do have screensavers, so it'll take care of that.
But you're right. If you're going to be doing something like a shooter game where you have like the panel underneath, that might stay up for hours.
Yeah, and again, it all depends on your use case. I think it's just like a TV. Maybe I don't have a thought in my head, but you know, they do have a couple out there. There's even some tablets. Samsung has come out with tablets that have OLED screens. Again, they're a little bit less popular. There is a little bit of a battery life trade-off, especially if you have the screen come up relatively bright and with a white, which is most people use a white background when they're browsing the web or whatever. So that's something to consider too. I think with these OLED portable battery-powered OLED screens, you do have some battery life concerns.
Here's kind of an interesting thought from Life Improvement. You know what I want for TVs? A blue reduction in the evening that you can set, like how you turn your phone and your computer sometimes can, where it takes the reds out and puts on, it takes the blues out, puts the red increase so that it's supposed to have like that calming effect on your vision.
Mm-hmm.
That would be an interesting thought. Would you actually think that would be a marketable thing for a television?
Yeah, anything's marketable as long as you decide to put a cool name on it and talk about it in a way that is appealing to people. One thing I would counter with that is that, again, looking at the content you actually look at on a screen, it's almost always with a tablet or a computer. It's going to generally be, white, black and white. With a TV, it's going to be, color and moving video and things like that, more likely. So I think, there is some appeal there, and you can actually do that yourself by going in and play with the color settings.
Oh, yeah,
But
you're right.
I'm a color accuracy guy, and I would be, I'd run away from that, like a dumpster fire. But there's probably some people who might want to look at blue, or yellowish faces when
like
when they're watching
orangish.
a movie. Yeah.
You would definitely notice a lot more. I guess
Yeah,
you're
skin
right.
tones are really obvious. And
I have a blue light filter, like a pretty heavy one, on
Right.
my Samsung phone. But it's because you look at the phone for a long time, and you're right. Like, I'm reading articles most of the time, and like if there's an orangey background instead of a bright white background, what's the difference?
I'm not saying there's no appeal. Yeah.
But I see what you're saying. If I'm watching a movie and now I've tinted the entire movie,
Right.
that might get annoying.
But then again, there's plenty of people who'd be like, I'm fine with that because I don't want to stay up, or I want to watch a movie and fall asleep to it, and I don't really care about that much about color accuracy anyway. And in that case, I do think there's some place for that. I'm actually surprised now that you mention it that nobody has come up with that yet.
You have to come up, as you started with,
blue mode button.
Yeah, blue mode. We got to
opposite.
come up with a better name than that, but sure.
Right. The yellow mode button, night mode button.
Night mode.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. I'm sure some folks in the chat have some good naming ideas for blue
For now,
light filter.
I'll just tell everybody out there to put it in movie mode and forget it, because movie mode will give you the best accuracy generally. So.
We got just enough time for a couple more. Here's one from Michael Brown. MicroLED sounds. Is it MicroLED or MicroLED? How should we lean on this?
Let's say micro LED for now.
But why are there OLED and QLED then?
Because I'm lazy. Micro LED just sounds weird, right? I mean,
Kinda. So does
really,
OLED
really
and
small
QLED.
LED. No,
It's a very good point, though, because we do say OLED pretty often,
Yeah.
but during the podcast we didn't, because we were saying micro LED.
Yeah.
I was like consciously noticing that we were doing that, but
Yeah.
it's because it's hard to switch between the two.
Yeah, I've always said micro LED, but they also haven't come up with a real name for it. So maybe they'll change it to like, Super TV or something, and we won't have to worry about it.
All right.
What
So
a terrible name.
They will. Watch it.
Now introducing
Super Ultra
Super
Mega
TV.
Definition.
Right. It comes
Yeah.
with a cape.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You can't take it off. You're not allowed to remove the TV's cape.
before we move on and wrap up, I just want you guys to know that you've coined a new active hashtag catchphrase with hashtag BSery.
BSery.
All right.
That's your word.
On the
Nice.
screen
Yeah,
right now.
truthiness.
We're going to
Yes.
catch on.
It's a complexifier.
It is a complexifier. Let's talk about that again.
Let's please.
So back to Michael Brown's question. MicroLED sounds to be very promising. Is this a moonshot product that we won't see for another 5 years?
5 years, no, because this is Samsung, and they are hell bent on beating LG and succeeding OLED as quickly as possible. So give these guys credit. They have amazing engineering capabilities. They've been, it's been their major announcement at CES the last 2 years, and they are definitely 100% going to come out with a real product. I would say within next year. So this year is going to be, the time when they're getting it down. And they might even, at the end of this year, come out with a $20,000 75-inch micro LED TV, or even more expensive, just because they want to. But they are a really big company, and they're pushing this again to beat OLED. So I think it's a winner, a guaranteed. I would put money on it that we're going to see a real product at a decent normal screen size in 2020.
And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but from a business perspective, that makes a ton of sense what you're saying, because Samsung does not make OLED televisions. They make OLED screens for phones, not only for their own phones, but also for Apple. So finding a way to convince some of those upmarket customers to buy micro LED as opposed to OLED, there's a huge justification for that, because Samsung is the biggest TV maker in the world.
Yeah.
So let's try to steal those customers away from LG, which is the big player in OLED right now.
Right, and Samsung still makes QLED high-end TVs hand over fist. They still have a huge market share in the #1 market share in the higher-end TVs as well. So they have a little bit of margin to play around with. They're not getting their lunch completely taken away by LG and OLED, so they have a little bit of room to do some R&D and play around with this technology and see whether it's viable. And I think they with the stuff that they're talking about, the stuff they released, they definitely think it is viable, and it's just a matter of engineering it down to a place that's affordable.
Speaking of affordable, as a closing thought, we talk about these really kind of not pie in the sky, but micro LEDs not going to be in anybody's home. Not everybody's home, at least, in a big hurry.
Nope.
Let's revisit CES. We saw some real highlights, some high-end, cool products, and I know it's really not the place for it, but maybe leave us with, in 2019, what do you see as maybe the most cost-effective and affordable thing that we see coming down the pipe that's new, original, attainable?
Yeah, again, it's going to come down to the TVs that I've liked in the last couple of years the most, which is Vizio and TCL. Those guys do the best with balancing picture quality for the money. And last year, Editor's Choice was a TCL 6 Series, again, that $800, $900, $1,000 65-inch TV. And Vizio kind of got that crown taken away from them last year, and I saw at CES this year, their new TVs look even more aggressive, even better for the money.
Who,
so
TCL?
It's Vizio. Sorry.
Vizio.
So Vizio had a big announcement at CES, and they showed off all their new TVs, and a lot of them looked really promising. And again, no pricing yet, no availability yet, but I think in 2019, those two are going to be the ones to beat, again, at the picture quality for the money. And, again, in the high end, I talked about a lot of these really good full array local dimming LCD TVs and even QLED TVs, but I think OLED is going to continue to be the one that I'm going to be recommending to people buy, again, in November 2019.
Right. Don't do anything quite yet.
Yep.
All right, Katz, thanks so much for making time for us. I know the audience always loves it when you come on. You are definitely a fan favorite. Give my best biddings to Muad'Dib. And
yes.
We'll see you next time. Ben, let's get on out of here and call it a week.
All right.
Wait, no, it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday, silly.
Crap.
359 is available on iTunes, TuneIn, FeedBurner, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Google Podcasts, the Amazon Echo, and of course, CNET.com. Thanks again, Cats in the Cradle, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Bye-bye.